got question, Chase has got the facts, talking NFL numbers, he's got your back. A little chart trend ball, man, he's got it like that. Chasing data by do champions. Chasing data applies to everyone. Chasing data, yeah, we're live today. Chasing data for always. Chasing data by do champions.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Chasing Data. I am Chase, your host of the show. We are into another week of our off-season breakdowns. We are halfway through these reverse power rankings that are being updated every week, and we're halfway home. We're halfway through this, and we're going to do one by one each week until we get to number one. So if you haven't seen any of the other shows, what we do here is we go through each team, whichever team I'm doing that week, and we go through their additions, their subtractions, their strengths, their weaknesses, look at their draft, basically analyze their draft. Did they really hit the positions of need? What do they still need? Do they still have cap room for this team? Can they still make any acquisitions in free agency? What's the outlook for 2025? Is this a boom or bust year? What else could be done to this roster to improve it? And what's just the general overview of the upcoming season? I really enjoy any feedback I get from the show. Chime in, let me know your thoughts, and we can discuss whatever's going on. So each week before I get started, what I like to do is just do a little pregame warm-up where we go in and talk about whatever the topics that have happened in that week since last week's episode. And we have a few, but we actually have a new one that hit right before we got started tonight. And that's Brock Purdy getting that huge extension. So he got paid. You know, they were talking about what they were going to give him, what the numbers were going to look like. I didn't know it was going to be this high, honestly. He ends up getting a 5-year, $265 million contract, $181 million guaranteed with $165 million in the first 3 years. Short and sweet, I do believe he is worth the money. That $53 million per year average is tied with Tua and Jared Goff, who are 6th and 7th highest paid. So he's right there with them, 6, 7, 8. I mean, that's not bad whenever you look at the contracts. They go up each year for the quarterback position. And that 181 guaranteed ranks 8th amongst quarterbacks right now. So you add that to the fact that it was the largest total contract signed ever by a player drafted in the 7th round. The previous high was the guard that the Vikings took this year in free agency and gave him $87 million. So $87 million up to $265. 7th round, Mr. Irrelevant gets paid. So, I mean, they had to lock him in forever for the foreseeable future. I mean, I know some people argue he's a system quarterback, but he's the perfect system quarterback if you want to use that argument for Kyle Shanahan in that offense. In his 3 seasons, he has over 9,500 pass yards, 64 touchdowns, 4 playoff wins, an NFC championship, and a Pro Bowl. So, I mean, again, this is all reasons why he's worth the money. Outside of that, his first year, he goes 13-4, NFC championship loss. Second season, 12-5, NFC championship win. Third season, he's 3rd in yards per attempt, 4th in success rate, and 5th in EPA per attempt. That's despite the fact that he had the 2nd most injured offense and 57 total snaps between Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, Debo, and Kittle all being on the field together. So he played with a bunch of backups, I should say. I mean, Juwan Jennings is also great, or he's being made great by Brock Purdy in the system. But, I mean, he hasn't had his top weaponry in 2024, and he was still able to excel and put up outstanding numbers over the last year. So well worth all the money that he got. I mean, you just add to it 9 yards per pass attempt, which was first. This is as a starter. This is since 2022. 6.1 pass touchdown percentage. That's second. 106 passer rating, best, 4 postseason wins, tied for third. I mean, you could just go all day, every day. I mean, go on and figure out reasons why he was worth the money that he got. Definitely got it. And worth it. So, first on this list is a schedule release. I'm sure we're all aware of the schedule that has been released about a week. Was it the 14th it was released? So it was this week. And we have slowly pieced together the main points of the 2025 schedule. The Eagles and the Cowboys are the season opener on Thursday night. Other things that stand out is that Cam Ward, number 1 overall pick, got 0 primetime games, no standalone games. He will be playing while someone else is playing for every game during the season, which is crazy, being that he was the number 1 overall pick. Eagles and Chiefs rematch, Super Bowl rematch in week 2. This is at Kansas City. The most primetime games out of everybody. Kansas City has 7. Dallas has 6. How they get 6, I have no idea, because I have them ranked 17th on this, or no, 18th on my power rankings, and they have not done much to warrant more. I mean, these decisions were already made prior to them acquiring George Pickens. So with that said, why do they have the second most primetime games? Those that have 5 are Miami, Atlanta, Detroit, Philadelphia, Washington, Buffalo, the Chargers, and the Niners. Okay, most of those make sense. Miami and Atlanta, no clue yet again. Why do the Dolphins have 5 primetime games? No clue. Who asked for the Falcons to have 5 primetime games? Whatever. Teams that have 0, Tennessee, like I mentioned already, Cleveland, understandable. Surprised that the NFL did not try to throw Shedeur Sanders into a primetime game, and then the Saints. Nobody wants to see them in primetime. So understood as to why they have 0 games. Second news of note is Derrick Henry, Baltimore Ravens running back, extended 2-year extension. The 2-year extension is for $30 million, $25 million guaranteed, makes him second highest paid running back. The running back market is back. After a few years of not being paid, they are now getting paid tons of money. Look at his last year, 1,921 yards on the ground, 18 total touchdowns. He's had 4 seasons of 1,500 or more rush yards. That's the most out of all active running backs, and no other active running back has more than 1 season of such 1,500 plus. Since 2020, the most 100-yard or more rush games, since 2020, the most 100-plus rush yard games, he has 37. The next closest is 24. That's a 33% drop-off. That's Jonathan Taylor. And then third is Nick Chubb, who has 19. Nick Chubb's career may be over as a bell cow running back. So, as a Ravens fan, Derrick Henry is worth every penny. You add that to the fact that he had the most yards per carry last year at 5.9, third longest carry of his career at 87 yards. He broke that long early touchdown early in the season. He had the second most yards in a season for his career, and he had the second most rushing touchdowns, 16 in his career. So, Buffalo Bills Podcast Network, I always want to hit on what the Bills are doing. Gabe Davis is still out there. He signed that 3-year, $39 million contract with the Jaguars. They released him. He did not succeed the way they thought he would. He signed basically the same contract as Saquon Barkley, 2 totally different paths on what they did in 2024. Gabe Davis only played 10 games, 20 receptions, 239 yards, 2 touchdowns. But if you look back at his numbers of what he did in Buffalo, it was much better. Buffalo seems to be all in for a Super Bowl, so why not bring him back? Still got a little bit of cap space. Make something work. But enough about all that. Let's get into what we're here for. We have now made it through 17 teams. Here's the 17 teams that we've gone through so far. You can see covered up behind my live icon. The Titans are 32, Browns 31, Saints 30, 29 are the Patriots, 28 Giants, 27 Jags, 26 Raiders, 25 Jets, 24 Panthers, 23 Colts, 22 Steelers, 21 Falcons, 20 Seahawks, 19 Dolphins, 18 Cowboys, 17 Cardinals. So from here on out, we will do one team per episode, go into a little bit more detail each week. We have been doing 2 or 3 teams each week, hitting the high points of each of these rosters. But now we're going to get into the real nitty gritty of these teams. And I mean, it's pretty much given away if you can see my background here. Who team number 16 is. They have made quite the jump based on where they were at the end of 2024, and that is the Chicago Bears are team number 16. So let's get right into it. Chicago Bears. Last year they were 5-12. Their current over/under for the betting markets is 8.5 wins, so a 3.5 win jump from last year. What they did last year, they struggled at times. But before we get into that, like I said, their betting markets to become champions plus 3,500. I mean, that's better odds than what I thought it would be. Plus 1,600 to win the conference, which is the 11th best odds. Kind of doesn't seem to go together. NFC, but they're plus 425 to win the NFC North, which is the worst odds in the NFC North. So a long shot. NFC North is still somewhat open. There's a lot of reasons that we'll get into as we continue on. But you look back at their 2024, they started off 4-2. Then they go on that 10-game losing streak, losing 10 in a row before they win against the Green Bay Packers in Week 18. Miraculous win, finally, break that losing streak. They get rid of their head coach and Matt Eberflus. They bring in Ben Johnson. You look at Ben Johnson, if you're not familiar with him, I'd be surprised. But looking at what he's done in Detroit, he was their offensive coordinator for the last few years. Last 3 years, Detroit's yards per game ranked 4th, 3rd, and 2nd. Their points per game ranked 5th, and 1st. So he comes in to be an offensive mind for this team. Build up Caleb Williams, take him to that next level. What can he do as the future of this franchise? Even though word has come out, was that yesterday, that Caleb Williams wanted to be a Minnesota Viking and was considering, kind of pushing that limit to figure out a way to get into Minnesota. But Chicago was not budging. Ryan Poles was not budging. They were sticking and taking Caleb Williams with number 1 pick, which is what they did. But the Bears, they have not made the playoffs since 2020. They have no playoff wins since 2010, which was against Seattle in the divisional round. Their offense coordinator is Declan Doyle. I mean, LOL. I mean, it's Ben Johnson. We know Ben Johnson is going to be calling the plays. Declan Doyle was the tight ends coach in Denver the last 2 years, comes over, is officially the offensive coordinator. Defensive coordinator is someone who has a little bit more experience in the likes of Dennis Allen. Last stop was in New Orleans, where he was the head coach after being the defensive coordinator there a few years. He did a lot better when he was the defensive coordinator in New Orleans. He ranked in yards per game 4th, 7th, and 5th. And then he once, head coach over the last 2 years, 13th and 30th in yards per game allowed. He runs a 4-3 scheme, a lot of cover 2 plays you'll see. Same thing Eberflus ran with that 4-3. I mean, the Bears defense only had two defensive linemen generate more than 5 sacks in the same season only once in the past 3 years. So they stick with that 4-3. They really hit the draft free agency on that front 4 to try to bolster what is somewhat of a weak spot for this team. But we'll get more into that as we go. So looking at some of their statistics for 2024, on the offensive side of the ball, they were 28th in points per game, just 18.2 points per game. Terrible. 283 yards per game, which was dead last. 4.5 yards per play, dead last. Next to last in third down conversion percentage, less than 33%. That means they were only getting a first down on third downs, 1 out of every 3 third downs. Not ideal, to say the least. Red zone scoring was actually good. They were 7th in red zone scoring percentage. That's a touchdown. On almost 2 out of every 3 possessions in the red zone, they scored a touchdown. The problem was they never got there. Never got there to be able to score. So when you look at the running side of the ball with this team, the rush was not ideal. They ran for 4 yards per carry, ranked 26th, 102 yards per game on the ground, 24th, not much better. But they didn't run the ball much either. They were 25th in run percentage, just 40% of their plays, almost 60% in pass, which was 8th. Completion percentage was 27th. I mean, just not a good year all around on the offense. The defense was equally as bad. 6.3 yards per pass, which was 29th, and the QB sack rate was the highest at almost 11%. We'll get more into that as we go, but just not ideal if you're a Chicago Bears fan watching the offense. Defense not much better. They did only allow 22 points per game, which was average for the league, but they did give up 354 yards per game, which was 5th worst. A lot of that has to do with how bad the offense was. The offense would put them in not ideal situations, would force them to make stops that they could not make. Moving on, the yards per rush, they were 5th worst, giving up 4.8 yards per rush on the ground, 5th most yards allowed per game on the ground, and 3rd worst yards per pass allowed at 7.9 yards per attempt. Had a few highlights in there, but a lot of lowlights when you look at this team. So let's bring up their depth chart and look at their additions. So let's go through free agency first. And we'll start with the offensive line. The orange players are free agency players that they brought in. The pinkish purple names are the draft players that they brought in. The greenish teal, whatever you want to call that, are the undrafted free agents that they brought in. So with all that said, first one is Jonah Jackson, who they traded for from the Los Angeles Rams, who was not getting playing time anymore in Los Angeles. He got that contract, what was that, 2 years ago, and now Los Angeles traded him away for a 6th-round contract. I mean, a 6th-round pick. He's 11th in average value for offensive linemen. He allowed 9 pressures on 266 snaps last year, 24 pressures on 800 snaps 2 years ago. So his playing time just went down once they drafted Steve Avila in Los Angeles. He comes in, looks to be slotted to be the starting right guard. Probably an improvement based on what they had. Then they also make a trade for Joe Tooney, who is in the last year of his contract. They trade away a 2026 4th. He's 13th in average value, 7th best guard per PFF. He's in that last year of his contract. What is he, 32, 33 years old? So he's on the older end. It was Tevin Jenkins last year. Tevin Jenkins was solid, but then he goes and gets a 1-year, $3 million contract from Cleveland. I didn't understand. If his contract was that low, why did the Bears not match that or pay him? I mean, $4 or $5 million for 1 year. I mean, I thought he was going to get much more on the open market than what he did. Moving to the center position. Centers don't move around much, but they did sign Drew Dahlman from the Atlanta Falcons on a 3-year, $42 million contract, 2nd highest average value amongst all centers. He's a top 5 center in the NFL right now. He comes in, they're going to have to do a lot of offseason work between he and Caleb Williams to try to, get together, snap count, get the everything lined up between the two of them. Moving to the defensive side of the ball, as far as free agents, they signed Grady Jarrett, who was cut by the Atlanta Falcons on a 3-year, $48 million contract. That's 22nd in average value amongst defensive tackles. But that's a lot of money for Grady Jarrett, who really has not put up numbers over the last few years. He's had just 3 sacks. He has room to grow. 2.5 sacks, 3-year, $44 million, 32 quarterback pressures. I mean, not just he probably is an upgrade, but maybe an overpay. The big name that they sign in free agency is Dayo Odeyingbo from the Indianapolis Colts. 3-year, $48 million contract, 22nd average value. Much younger than Grady Jarrett. He had just 3 sacks last year, but it's kind of a bet on the upside of what he can do. Has room to grow for sure. He has 17 career sacks in 4 years. 83rd in sack percentage, so very low in that regard, but 23rd in quarterback pressure percentage. So what that says to me is that he is able to get to the quarterback, but just not able to wrap him up at times. So room to grow for sure. Then when you look at the draft, They definitely did a lot on the offensive side of the ball. Or first and foremost, they did a lot on the offensive side of the ball. Whenever, just looking at this quickly. First round, I mean, people thought that, if Tyler Warren falls to them at 10, they take him, improve that tight end position. They go and get Colston Loveland, who's coming off that surgery, shoulder surgery, but who some draft experts had him being tight end 1. Have him tight end 2, but that's just as of right now. He could end up having the better career between he and Tyler Warren in the long run. He's an effective route runner. He wins with his hands, can shake defenders, accelerates out of breaks at the top of his routes. His comp is Sam Laporta. So when you see Sam Laporta as his comp, your offensive coordinator is Ben Johnson, who came from Detroit with Sam Laporta. I mean, it was hand and glove match fit for the Chicago Bears and Colston Loveland. Big target, big hands. He never drops the ball. He runs hard after the catch. He can also block some if you need him to. And we know the run game was not good as well. I mean, there's issues all over this offense. Last year in 10 games, he had 56 receptions, almost 600 yards, 5 touchdowns. That was their first-round pick. Second-round pick, they had 2. First one that they use it on a wide receiver, another playmaker. They lose Keenan Allen. They go get Luther Burden III, who probably would have been a first-round pick in 2024, falls to the second in 2025. His comp, Stephon Diggs. I had him as wide receiver 5. I mean, it's a little bit of a mix and match as far as 3 through 7, I would say. But he's a god at yak ability, yards after the catch. He makes everyone miss. 12.8 yards per catch in 2024. Can take the top off of the defense. Doesn't drop the ball much. Can attack zone looks. The only knock on him is that he has small hands. Can work around that. Had a down year last year. Like I said, in 2024, he probably would have been a first-round pick. Falls to the second this year. 61 receptions, almost 700 yards, 6 touchdowns with Brady Cook at Missouri. See what he does. Is he going to be wide receiver 1, 2, or 3 on this offense? Probably not 1. Argument for wide receiver 2, though. We will see. Second round, they take Ozzie Trapillo, a left tackle. Second round, ideal height and length for the NFL. Strong initial first step to get his body going where it needs to go. His eyes are always searching for something or someone to block. He has patient hands and pass protection, good leg drive to displace, combo blocks. Great player. They needed depth. You don't know what's going to happen with Joe Tooney's in his last year. Jonah Jackson, is he going to be great again? I don't know. We shall see. That was their second-round pick. They used another second-round pick. They make a few trades. They get back into the second round. Shamar Turner, defensive lineman, high motor player, fast, active hands, good instincts for where the ball is going. 6'4", 300 pounds, could come in and contribute on this defensive line. Because like I said, last year, they did not. That was one of their weaknesses, is being able to get to the quarterback. Going over the rest of their picks, in the fourth round, they take another linebacker. I have their pictures here. I probably should have brought them up while we were discussing these. You have Colston Loveland right there in the middle. Shamar Turner on the right. Where's Luther? Luther Burden, top left. I mean, the only other players that they take of note, like I said, in the fourth round, they take a linebacker. Fifth round, they take Zy Frazier, cornerback. Sixth round, they take another offensive lineman. Seventh round, they take a running back. Kind of mix and match to help this offense and defense as they go along. Looking at the depth chart again, who did they lose in the offseason? Their subtractions. They lost Keenan Allen. Underrated loss, in my opinion. They did go out and get Luther Burden, but Keenan Allen, I feel like he was underrated for what he still was able to do. He was ranked 39th amongst wide receivers per PFF, 70 receptions, 744 yards, 7 touchdowns. A very good season whenever you look at the fact that this offense was terrible. He still put up a good stat line. They lose Tevin Jenkins, left guard that I spoke about earlier, signs that 1 year, $3 million contract in Cleveland. Surprising they did not bring him back. They cut Gerald Everett. They have Cole Kmet. They signed Smythe out of Miami. They draft Colston Loveland, save $6 million by cutting Everett. I mean, he was the odd man out. obviously. And before we get into the strengths, we'll have a quick word from our sponsors.
For the best Italian food in Western New York, Elliot Apollo's, call 716-825-3675. The Lardon Construction Group.
Fubo TV, the official streaming service of Do Champions. FanDuel, the official sportsbook of Do Champions.
For all your summertime needs, beauty pools, as well as kayak pools.
CX Chronicles, your total customer solutions focused manager. W.GG, the official energy drink of Do Champions.
Hey, Sons of Erie, our artwork looks better on your walls. Hamburg Brewing, please visit our tap room on Boston State Road, Hamburg, New York. And finally,
Fat Boy Surf Club for all your surfing needs.
All right, so right back to it. Let's look at their strengths of their team. This is overall. All right, let's hold up. Before we do that, let's go back to the previous teams, because the first strength is the fact that they have a franchise quarterback. Did he have a great first year? Not necessarily. He had some low lights for sure. But when you look at the teams that are right below them, not all of them have a franchise quarterback, especially prior to the draft. The Titans, could they have one? Potentially. The Browns. All right, so let's just go and say, do they have one as of today? Can you count on these players being a franchise quarterback? Titans, no. Browns, no. Saints, no. Patriots, yes. Giants, no. Jags, Trevor Lawrence, what we got going on there? I'm not really sure that he's franchise quarterback over these last few years. Geno, he's older. Justin Fields in New York, no. Carolina, yeah, we can say yeah. Colts, no. Steelers, no. Falcons, potentially. Seahawks, I don't know about that. Dolphins, you can say yes. Cowboys, yes. Cardinals, yes. Bears, yes. So majority of the teams below the Bears do not have a solidified franchise quarterback to build around going into the future. So that is one of their strengths. Bring up this depth chart again as we discuss all this. Last year, Caleb Williams came in and struggled. One of the reasons he struggled, his inability to stand in the pocket, step up in the pocket, and deliver on these throws. The accuracy was an issue at times. There's just, it seems like if you just think back in whole of what Caleb Williams did in 2024, everything just comes to mind where he is just scrambling out of the pocket. Turns his back, and he's spinning around, trying to make an off-balance throw to someone who isn't necessarily open or putting it in the breadbasket. It reminded me a lot of what he did at USC, which obviously is not going to translate majority of the times to the NFL. But he is still their franchise quarterback. I think Ben Johnson being there is really going to help him succeed. There was in that same report where he talked about going to the Vikings or wanting to go to the Vikings. He basically did not know what to watch as far as film in year one. He got there and just kind of turned it on, but had no one leading him as to what he should be looking out for with that film session, with those film sessions. So I feel like the bar is very low for him for 2025, and he could easily take a leap in 2026. Even though he's a franchise quarterback and that's a strength, we'll come back to why the offense overall was a weakness. But they have weapons. Offense struggled last year, but I still am 100% sold that they do have weapons. They have the likes of DJ Moore, who had almost 100 receptions, almost 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns, positive receiving EPA, positive yards after catch over expected, 3.4 average yards separation. That is, when you look at the majority of wide receivers, that is more than ideal. Over his last few years, let me bring it up here. For DJ Moore, where is he at? I got him in here. DJ. Here he is right here. Well, I thought he was right here. Did I not save it? Oh, well. DJ Moore, he has improved. Year 2 is better than year 1 for him in Chicago. His quarterback play was a little bit better. So continuing with their weapons, DJ Moore, he has improved. Well, no, I say year one was actually better. I take that back. Year one was much better. Definitely had a down year in year two, but he has improved. He stayed consistent for where he's been since 2019, right around 1,000 yards each year, 80 to 100 receptions each year, 5 to 7 touchdowns each year. So he's a solid contributor in this offense as a weapon. They have Rome Odunze, who is probably wide receiver 2 going into his second year. Last year, he had 54 receptions, 734 yards, 3 touchdowns. Again, a positive receiving EPA. You know who had the 2 top receiving EPAs on this team, though? Cole Kmet was number 1, and Keenan Allen was number 2. Both who will not play a factor in this offense nowhere near as much as they did last year. Cole Kmet's going to be tight end 2, and Keenan Allen is no longer there. Rome Odunze is wide receiver 2. They have Luther Burden now, who we've already discussed, as wide receiver 3. Colston Loveland, we've already discussed. They have DeAndre Swift, who last year had almost 1,000 yards, but on a terrible 3.8 yards per carry. We talked about their run game being one of the worst as far as yards per carry goes in the NFL. Last year was probably the worst year for DeAndre Swift, so it can only go up from where he has been in Detroit and Philadelphia. He had a negative 50 rushing EPA, worst of his career. Negative 174 rush yards over expected. Terrible. I mean, it was just, he had 0.20 mile per hour or higher carries. First time in his career he had 0. I mean, it was just a bad year for him. Did have 6 touchdowns, but I mean, they were mostly goal line situations. Still a weapon for this team, for this offense. The offensive line has improved from 2024. We discussed this already. I mean, what they had last year versus this year, Joe Tooney's new, Drew Dahlman's new, Jonah Jackson's new. They take a second-round swing on Trapillo being a left tackle. They get some more depth in the 6th round in Newman. Last year, they allowed the most sacks in the NFL. It was 68. 68. I think the next highest was 57 or 56, so miles ahead of the other teams as far as inability to protect the quarterback. Part of that was Caleb Williams' fault with his escapability or wanting to escape from the pocket more than he needed to. Highest sack percentage, 10.7. The next highest was 9.1. So again, light years ahead of second place or 31st place, ever how you want to look at it. Just terrible with protection. So that's a strength based on the amount that they've improved just from the names that they have on this roster on the offensive line at this point. The defense. The strength to me for this defense is that they do not have a glaring hole. When you look at all the teams that I've discussed, or majority of the teams I've discussed that are ranked lower than the Chicago Bears, there's always a standout position that is weak. The Bears, when you look at their front 4, Montez Sweat, Jervon Dexter Sr. Now they have Grady Jarrett, Dio Adiingbo out of Indianapolis. They take Shamar Turner in the second round. Front 4 is not a weakness. Linebacker position, was that 2 years ago? They signed TJ Edwards, Tremaine Edmonds, 2 solid linebackers. Definitely not a weakness. Cornerback position, Tyreek Stevenson. Okay, we can, let's look at the other cornerbacks. Jalen Johnson, Pro Bowler, All Pro. Kyler Gordon his stock is rising, especially in 2024. Then in the secondary, they get Kevin Byard, Jaquan Brisker, if he can come back healthy. I mean, none of those positions are weaknesses for the Chicago Bears. When you look, they were 16th in sacks. So, I mean, like I said, that was probably their weakness last year. I mean, I don't really look into a lot of what they did in a lot of these games because I feel like a lot of the players were checked out, especially by the midseason point. They were put in a lot of terrible situations with the offense being as bad as it was. And I chalk that up to just write that year off, write 2024 off, because 2023, they were much better on defense and not much changed. They were 9th in sack percentage last year. I mean, it's just, again, they were 9th in sack percentage, but they still need to get more names in there to improve that defensive line. Not a weakness, but not an overall strength. I mean, look, last year, their 2 top sack getters were Montez Sweat with 5.5, Jervon Dexter with 5. I mean, that is not ideal when your 2 top players have 9.5 combined sacks. Third highest was a linebacker, TJ Edwards, with 4. I mean, this is just not great, but not terrible. When you look at the advanced analytics compared to just topical level numbers, the defense wasn't as bad. They were 14th in EPA per play, 9th versus the pass as far as EPA per pass, and 21st in EPA per rush. So the run defense was a little bit worse than the pass defense. I mean, you look at this back 7, it is much better than probably the front 4 goes. But they brought in some new names, like I've said time and again. Another strength is the fact that they have a coach who has proven himself in Ben Johnson. They don't have Matt Eberflus. They still have Ryan Poles, but we can disregard that for now. Matt Eberflus is out. I feel like it's a new vibe in Chicago. A little bit of an uptick as far as what's going to be going on in 2025. So when you look at some of these players, we start with the defensive side of the ball. TJ Edwards, I mean, last year, like I say, he had 4 sacks, a 93 passer rating allowed as a linebacker. I mean, he's in coverage some. He lines up mostly his 800 of his snaps linebacker position, 100 as an edge alignment. I mean, that's where he gets some of his sacks. Well, actually, he had 0 sacks when he was lined up as an edge player, 3 in linebacker position. So I guess that's on the blitz probably. Last year, he had 129 tackles, which is right about where he's been last few years, career high in sacks. Looking at Tremaine Edmonds, over 1,000 snaps, healthy last year, had just 1 sack, but he's not in there to rush the passer. I mean, 900 of his 1,000 snaps were at the linebacker position. They don't move him around as much as TJ Edwards. Another solid year for him. He had, 110 tackles, which he's had right around 110, 120 all 7 years in the NFL. Moving on to secondary with Kyler Gordon. Kyler Gordon last year, I mean, he had much more play time. No interceptions for the first time, but I mean, he did improve. He lines up. Most of his snaps were in the slot. Looking at Tyreek Stevenson, allowed just an 80 passer rating, which was better in his second year versus his first year. He's had 6 interceptions over the last 2 years, almost 800 snaps. Most of his snaps, cornerback position, almost 800. He doesn't really move. They don't really move him around much at all. Looking at Jalen Johnson, their CB1. I mean, last year, 2023, he allowed a 48 passer rating, which is otherworldly. 4 interceptions 2 years ago, 2 last year. Played almost 1,000 snaps last year. Allowed just 32 receptions, 450 yards against everybody's wide receiver 1. He matches up with them and follows them around, and that's what he does. And that is his go-to. It's just being number 1. Looking at that, well, let's look at Jaquan Brisker first. Last year he only played 5. He had a concussion last year, was out most of the season. Played just 5 games. So we're hoping that he comes back because he's definitely an all-pro caliber player for Chicago in the secondary. He's that free safety for them. And then when you look at the front 4 in Jervon Dexter, definitely a career year out of his first 2 years. Had 5 sacks, 37 stops. Stops are tackles that are made at or within 1 yard of the line of scrimmage. So definitely great there. 9.2 quarterback pressure percentage. Ideal for sure. Mostly lines up at defensive tackle position. And then we'll finish this off with Montez Sweat. Pretty much a down year from where he was when he got traded 2 years ago from the Commanders. In 2023, he had 12.5 sacks. He came in and had 8 sacks with the Chicago Bears. Last year, he had just 5.5 in 16 games. So definitely a down year. Hoping he can bounce back from where he was to get back to where he was in 2023. He is edge 1 probably on this team, but Adeyingbo may could challenge that for him. We look at the offensive side of the ball, Caleb Williams versus the blitz last year. he was just terrible all around, honestly, as far as the EPA goes. Negative 37 EPA versus the blitz, negative 32 EPA when no blitz, so minimally better. 8 touchdowns, 3 interceptions versus the blitz, 12 touchdowns, 3 interceptions when they don't blitz. They blitzed roughly 1/3 of the time. His EPA per dropback was worse. It was just all around bad. He was sacked 29 times versus the blitz, pressured 45% of the time versus the blitz. When he wasn't blitzed, pressured 35% of the time. He was just running for his life every snap of the season. When you look at DeAndre Swift, looking at where he ran the ball, it's pretty much split between inside tackles and outside tackles. Only about 20 snaps different between the two. Did a half a yard better when running inside the tackles. But his still rush yards over expected is about the same. His rush EPA is 30 points better running inside the tackles. So maybe something to work on this year. Get up and down instead of bouncing it outside as often in 2025. Rome Odunze, he was 31 of his 54 receptions were under 10 air yards. So he had short completions underneath route runner. But that was, he didn't really do much with it. He had 174 yards after the catch, negative 11 yards after the catch over expected. So he didn't really do much with it after he caught it. A mediocre year in year one for Rome Odunze. So that's the strengths of this team. Now let's talk about the weaknesses. Weaknesses for the Chicago Bears. Now we talked about their offense and the high points of it. The advanced analytics still show they're not the best. 25th in EPA per play, 26th in EPA per pass, 22nd EPA per rush, 5th highest time to throw, likely due to a bunch of scrambling by Caleb Williams. 25th in explosive runs, negative 128 rush yards over expected, which is next to last. They have 42 explosive runs. That's a run play that got 10 or more yards. Terrible. More weaknesses on this team. It's just they haven't proved anything yet. The defense took a step back in 2024, but again, we've talked about how much of that was due to Matt Eberflus, how much of that was due to the fact that they were playing from behind. Have much higher expectations for them in 2020. The outlook on the season is, we're not at the point where we're saying, hey, they are a contender, but this season is looking more as a stepping stone to being on the way there. Like we're still 2 seasons out or so, but they need to show that they are taking steps forward instead of being in the same position or going in reverse like they have for many years past. Their cap situation, they have $312 million. This is less of an issue at this point. $312 million committed, which is the 6th most. Unlike the teams that I have below them that are tiers lower than them, they don't really have bad contracts. Top players, as far as contract go, Montez Sweat, DJ Moore, Jalen Johnson, Tremaine Edwards, Joe Tooney, Jonah Jackson, Drew Dahlman. That's your top players as far as contracts. Nothing really bad. $7.2 million in cap space, which is the 5th least. And when you look at the names that are still available as far as free agency with that $7 million, they can't. Who's left? Amari Cooper? No, not for them. Rasul Douglas? Nah. Asante Samuel, if they had the money, sure, why not? Mike Hilton? None of these players. Keenan Allen, they're not bringing back. They signed they drafted Luther Burden. J.K. Dobbins, potentially. I don't think. They have Roshan as RB2. They're not really weak at any one position, so I think they just hold on to that money for now. Wait and see if an injury comes around, see if they can use that money somewhere, but there's no reason in really spending it right now. $4 million in dead cap, which is the absolute least amount in the NFL. And that's just split mostly between Nate Davis and Gerald Everett. So what we got left? We still got to cover their schedule, top players, MVP candidates, drop-off candidates. So let's go ahead and go through their schedule while we're here. Bring it up. Schedule pictured here. This is the best I could get as far as their scheduling images that they sent out. I mean, this is quite the image with Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson at the front of this picture. Largest image. Okay, we'll take it. So, Chicago Bears schedule. They have the second hardest strength of schedule at 57.1% win percentage in opponents. Second hardest in the NFL, tied with the Detroit Lions. I want to say the Giants have the hardest at 0.574. So, tough schedule for sure, as you see here. 5 primetime or standalone games on this schedule. As we go through, we'll go through them and just discuss them, and then we'll run through how many wins that I could see. Week 1, they are at home versus the Minnesota Vikings. Monday Night Football in Week 1. They had the 5th fewest miles traveled this year also, by the way. Week 1, Monday Night Football against the Minnesota Vikings. 3-2 in 5 season openers versus the Vikings. 31-14-1 in home openers. The numbers are in their favor. What is J.J. McCarthy going to come out and do? Who knows? Who honestly knows? Kevin O'Connell is a wizard as far as play calling goes, but I mean, this is a toss-up that the Bears could play them closely. They're going to come out hyped up, looking to prove something in 2025 that they could not prove in 2024. So, I mean, we'll come back to it, but that's a toss-up. Week 2, they go to Detroit. Detroit may still be a league ahead of them. Although they are 105, 80, and 5 ties all-time versus Detroit. Detroit's offense is still they have a new offensive coordinator, obviously, because their old offensive coordinator is now the Bears coach. They have a new defensive coordinator, so they have a lot to prove in Detroit as far as what they're going to do to continue their streak of being great in the NFC North. Week 3, they have a home game against the Dallas Cowboys, 7-6 all time. Dallas is not a top-tier team like they have been in years past, so definitely a winnable game there for sure. Las Vegas, Week 4 at Las Vegas. Las Vegas still has a lot of things to improve on. Chicago should win this game. Week 5, they have an early bye, which is absolutely terrible. Terrible if you're a Chicago Bears team. I hate the early buys because then you have 13 straight games to going into the playoffs. Don't like that. They lost last year coming off of a bye. That was the game where Noah Brown caught the game-winning touchdown on the Hail Mary versus the Commanders. They were 4-2, and then they have the bye, and then they lose, and they have the 10-game losing streak. This is the earliest bye week that they've had since 2018 when it was Week 5 then as well. Week 6, another Monday Night Football game. They come off the bye and play the Washington Commanders yet again. Week 7, they play New Orleans at home. They should win that game. New Orleans doesn't have a quarterback. They have Tyler Shuck as QB1 probably, quarterback of the future. Week 8 is at Baltimore. Baltimore is in a league above them. It's going to be tough to win that one. Week 9, I mean, if the offense is clicking at this point, could this be a shootout? For sure. We know defense in Cincinnati is non-existent. Could see a 35-38 final score in that one. The Giants in Week 10 at home, they should win that one. A lot of holes on that offense still. Improved, but still not there, especially in the quarterback room as of right now. Week 11, they play Minnesota again at Minnesota. In the second half of the season, the Bears will face 5 playoff teams. Not ideal if you're a Chicago Bears fan. Week 12, they have Pittsburgh at home. They're 12-1 all time versus the Steelers at home. So a winnable game, especially if they don't get a quarterback. I mean, I don't think Will Howard is the answer. Mason Rudolph obviously is not. And I'm not sure Aaron Rodgers is showing up in Pittsburgh. He has done crazier things, so to be determined. Week 13, they play the Philadelphia Eagles. This is on Black Friday. It's going to be a tough game to win. We know the Philadelphia Eagles is a better team on paper than the Chicago Bears. Week 14, they go to Green Bay. Going to be a tough one. This is where the division starts to get, the picture becomes a little muddled as far as who's going to end up where 1 through 4. I mean, I feel like this division is much closer than what many people think. The Bears are ranked 4th, obviously, but they're not way behind as some other 4th place divisional teams. Week 15, they have Cleveland at home. Again, a very winnable game, especially no quarterback there in Cleveland and a lot of issues. Week 16, so 2 weeks after they go to Green Bay, they have Green Bay at home on a Saturday. Should hopefully split that season series with them if they want any chance at the wild card or the division. Week 17, they play the high money player quarterback in Brock Purdy. Sunday Night Football in San Francisco. And week 18, this may be a game to try to get into the playoffs or the division at this point. They have Detroit at home, which is helpful. Going to be cold. Jared Goff is not as good outdoors, so definitely a helpful factor for them. So when we go back through their schedule, we're just going to run through it real quickly. Minnesota, let's say they split the season series because they have J.J. McCarthy. They lose both games against Detroit. They could win against Dallas. They should win against Las Vegas. Washington, tough win. Probably a loss. Should win against the Saints. Probably not going to beat Baltimore or Cincinnati. But they could and should beat the Giants. We said they'd split against Minnesota. Should beat the Steelers as currently constructed. Loss against the Eagles. Split against the Packers. Beat the Browns. And could potentially get a win against the Niners. I mean, they're not the team that they were 2 and 3 years ago. So we're looking at right now a 9-ish win season. Just roughly looking at it, but we're going to talk about that more in just a second. So before we continue, we got a few more things left, but let's get that ad to play one more time real quick. And we'll be right back to finish up the episode.
For the best Italian food in Western New York, Elliot Apollo's, call 716-825-3675. The Lardon Construction Group.
Fubo TV, the official streaming service of Do Champions. FanDuel, the official sportsbook of Do Champions.
For all your summertime needs, beauty pools, as well as kayak pools.
CX Chronicles, your total customer solutions focused manager. W.GG, the official energy drink of Do Champions.
Hey, Sons of Erie, our artwork looks better on your walls. Hamburg Brewing, please visit our tap room on Boston State Road, Hamburg, New York. And finally,
Fat Boy Surf Club for all your surfing needs.
We're getting right back into it, and we're going to finish up this episode probably about 15 minutes. All right, let's see. All righty. So if you're just getting in here, let's go back to the depth chart real quick. We're just going to keep the depth chart up for a moment. Actually, let's just go full screen here. Let's go full screen. Full screen. So, Chicago Bears. Top players, if you're just now joining and you're just not really familiar with the Chicago Bears at all, their top players on this roster is currently constructed going in 2025. You have the likes of DJ Moore, Caleb Williams on the offensive side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, you have Jalen Johnson, Kyler Gordon, and Jaquan Brisker if he can come back healthy, or if we can get a Montez Sweat from 2023. If we can get him back, then we're really cooking in Chicago as him being one of the top players on this team. One thing I do with every team that I discuss is look at their MVP, Offensive Rookie of the Year, Defensive Player, Offensive Player of the Year, who has the best odds on this roster. With this team, you have, trying to get straight here, MVP candidates. Caleb is the MVP candidate on this team at plus 2,800. I want to say it's like 12th best odds. He also has Offensive Player of the Year. I mean, I don't see a world where he wins Offensive Player of the Year, but not MVP, whatever. Plus 7,500 Offensive Player of the Year. Defensive Player of the Year, the best candidate is Montez Sweat at plus 10,000. Offensive Rookie of the Year, Best option is Loveland at plus 3,000. Luther Burden, I want to say, was plus 4,500 or so. Defensive Rookie of the Year, not good money there. With Shamar Turner at plus 7,500, I just don't know how much he's going to see the field, honestly. Best odds for anything is Coach of the Year, Ben Johnson at plus 600. I mean, he comes in, first-year coach. I mean, if he gets his team to 9 wins, and especially if he makes the playoffs, he's odds-on favorite to win Coach of the Year in Chicago. Most improved player, I mean, easily is Caleb Williams. He did throw for 3,500 yards last year, but he could easily be the most improved player in 2025 for this team. If it's not Caleb Williams, the other candidate that I see is Rome Odunze. He led the NFL with 37 passes that were over or underthrown. So per his stat line, he could improve a lot. He did have 10 games with 3 or fewer receptions. So the bar, again, is very low for the likes of Rome Odunze and could easily be the most improved player. Drop-off candidates, I said DeAndre Swift was a weapon, but he could definitely be on the skid, on sliding down. He's had consecutively worse seasons over the last 2 years, with 2022 being his best year. Again, like his yards per carry, 5.5 2 years ago, 4.6 last year, 3.8 this past year. 5.5, 4.6, 3.8. So the trend is down. His rush yards over expected, positive 37, negative 65, negative 174 over the last 3 years. Rush EPA, positive 7, negative 9, negative 50. I mean, everything's just trending downward for DeAndre Swift. So he is very possibly the drop-off candidate on this team. If not him on the offensive side of the ball, you got Montez Sweat on the defensive side of the ball. Because like we discussed earlier, he had 12.5 sacks 2 years ago, 72 quarterback pressures. Last year, he dropped from 12.5 sacks down to 5.5 and went from 72 quarterback pressures to 50 quarterback pressures. The quarterback pressure percentage is still there. He's just not completing the rush and being able to get the quarterback down. His tackles were down from 57 to 32. Snaps, I mean, not down much. I mean, the numbers were not there. So is that just an off year or is he on the decline? We shall see. Because, I mean, his worst season outside of last year was when he had 5 sacks in 2021, but he played 7 fewer games than what he did in 2024. X factors on this team, Ben Johnson. I try to avoid the quarterback is the X factor on every team. No matter who you are, X factor is the quarterback first and foremost. So I don't want to say quarterback for the Chicago Bears while we all know he is the X factor. Outside of him, Ben Johnson and his ability to have an immediate impact on this offense like he did in Detroit. If you're a Chicago Bears fan, don't get worried if they do have a bad start. If you look back to what he did in Detroit, in his first year, they started 1-6, and then he became one of the top, if not the top offensive mind in the NFL over the next few years. Can he turn it around immediately? It's not necessary, but it's going to be interesting to get Caleb back in touch with reality, being able to stay inside the pocket, be able to step up in the pocket, not spin around and run out left or right, especially being that he did not watch film correctly over the last few years. Ben Johnson is a stable mind, a stable offensive mind, and he is the X factor for the Chicago Bears in 2025. To finish up this episode, I want to talk about the outcomes for this team. What's the best? What's the worst? What's the most realistic? And all of them are realistic to an extent, but best case scenario, Caleb is turned into a top 12 quarterback with Ben Johnson. The defense bounces back to where it was 2 years ago, plus the additions. Is it now a top 10 defense? It's not out of the realm of possibility. O-line is average at minimum. The injury bug isn't there. Minnesota has regression based on their record with what they had in 2024. They were top 2 record in the NFC, top 3 record. What were they? They were the same as the Philadelphia Eagles, or 1 game difference. But they have regression in Minnesota with J.J. McCarthy being there, not Sam Darnold in this offense. Green Bay is still a mid team. They're still held back from the lack of having a wide receiver 1. I mean, it's not really far-fetched for them to be 9-8 or even 8-9 in Green Bay. Detroit is regressing due to losing an offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. Aiden Hutchinson, we saw the video. He doesn't look 100%. Still a few months to the season, but not ideal to say the least in Detroit. If all these things fall into this plan, then there is a path. There is a very slim chance, but there is a path that you are actually fighting for the division at that point at 10-7 or better. You are a quarterback injury away in Detroit. We saw what happened with their defense last year with the injury bug that they had. Green Bay being a mid team, Minnesota not being great due to having basically a rookie quarterback under center. And you could be 10-7 and fighting for the division. They're all going to be around that record potentially. And that's a scenario in Chicago. Worst case scenario, though, is Caleb is the same as he was in 2024. He's doing the same things I said he needed to stop doing. Doesn't improve, underthrow, overthrow, just not accurate. Freaks out under pressure. Oh, offensive line isn't as good as it looks on paper. The defense is the same as it was last year. It wasn't a fluke year where they were bad. And we're looking at 5-11 again. Hopefully not going to happen, but it is a possibility. But my expectation for the Chicago Bears is that Caleb will take time to improve, especially on his flaws and his bad habits, but he will improve as the season goes on and he gets more time under Ben Johnson. He will become the first 4,000-yard passer in Chicago Bears history. To accomplish that, he only needs 235 pass yards per game. He had 3,500 last year, which is the 5th highest in franchise history. So, I mean, the possibility that he gets to 4,000 is there. The possibility that he gets the franchise record of 3,838 by Eric Kramer in 1995 is even more likely. The offensive line will be much more helpful to him versus what they had last year with the issues with with them and Caleb Williams. That will then open up other areas of the offense. They have plenty of weapons. DeAndre Swift can't be any worse than what he was last year, 3.8 yards per carry. And that will round into shape as the year goes on. They did lose Keenan Allen, but we'll work it out with the other weapons that they have. And Luther Burden, Colston Loveland, add him to Cole Kmet. Will DJ Moore still be there long term? I mean, there's kind of been hints that something could be in the works. Not really sure. The defense will be more motivated to play better with actual hope for once, not being put in terrible positions by turnovers and just terrible offensive play all around, not being behind all the time. It will be a struggle to finish atop the NFC North is my expectation, but it is possible to get into the mix at 9-8 or even 10-7, especially for a wild card. And I mean, I feel like that is a very real possibility. But I mean, if you are a Chicago Bears fan, if your team goes 7-10 this year and the needle is pointing upward, you're happy. You do have some youth on this team. You have 2 rookie offensive weapons. You have a quarterback who is going into his second year. Your wide receiver, too, who is in his second year. No real threat at running back right now. And the defense is still kind of young. So, I mean, the possibility that they could improve over the next few years is there. But, I mean, if they finish 7-10, 8-9, 9-8, even 10-7, you are thrilled if you are a Chicago Bears fan, if Caleb Williams is showing improvement and showing that he can be the quarterback of the future for years to come, which is something that the Chicago Bears have not had over the last few decades, I should say. So let's go back and look at our rankings that we have here. So let's get this out the way. So we are through 16 teams. We've made it through half of the league, or over half now. We have 15. We've done 17, even though the Bears are number 16. So each and every week for the rest of the offseason, we will do one team, and we'll break them down in depth like we did tonight. It took us about an hour to get through the Chicago Bears. Felt like we covered a lot. If you've made it through this far, follow me at King NFL Stats. Thank the people at Do Media, a little bit farther down there. If you're a Buffalo Bills fan or want to know more about the Buffalo Bills, please follow everybody at Do Media, as that is what they cover there. First and foremost, the best coverage of Buffalo sports. That includes the Sabres as well. We will be doing this weekly. Like I said, follow me on every social media, King NFL Stats, X, Instagram, TikTok, And until then, catch you next week where we do team number 15. Thanks